Good evening, everybody.
Kavod Hakaf, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, thank you.
Oh, Hashem.
So we're going to continue here in the Bet Yosef. It brings you the tshuva of the Rashba. וזה לשון הרשב"א. שאלת תבשיל שנתבשל ביום טוב הראשון לצורך יום טוב שני, אם מותר. So the question is like this, right? If you cooked some kind of a dish on the first day of Yom Tov, but it was for the sake of the second day. So are you allowed to have that or not? That's the question. Teshuvah, the answer is Zo baya b'Gemara. So it says this question was asked in the Gemara. Avar ve'afa mai. So Gemara asked over there, right? What about if he transgressed and he baked something for the second day? Ve'atinan lemifshita miditanya. So it says we're trying to answer the question from the Braita. It says there, Misha hiniach erubet tavshilin. Whoever placed Eruv Tavshilin, but Dacher Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman argues with this, pushes it out, and says, the Arif, and the Arif comments on that. Lo pasak ba kalal. Right, so it's saying like this, right? That the Rif didn't paskin here, which is the halacha. Right. So it says, but however, it's reasonable to say that it's allowed. Chada midadachu Rav Nachman, because Rav Nachman pushed him out. So in other words, in the Talmud, when you push somebody out, that's indication that, the halacha is not like him. Since he was pushed out. Whatever, okay. That's the idea. Rav Asher Shmamina, and also Rav Asher pushed it out. Right. So you learn from there, that's the way we hold. Oh, the Havale Mashal Divrehem, the E Mideoraita, Mishal Divrehem. Right. So another reason why we're going to be lenient is because it's from the rabbis, because if it was because from the Torah it's allowed. The E Mideoraita Mishra Share. So it's saying, right, that if it's from the Torah, it's allowed. Right? In other words, from the Torah, it's allowed, because there is this case, there is this claim here. Right. That's also seems also from the Rambam. I didn't translate this so good. Let me just read this over one more time, right? Because I didn't say it so good. So we'll start from the answer of the Rashba, right? The Rashba answers. Zo baya b'Gemara. So he says this question was already asked in the Gemara. What was the question that was asked? The question was, if you made the food, right, for the second day of Yom Tov, b'diavad, are you allowed to have it or not? Right? That's the question. Or is it forbidden? The rabbis made it forbidden for you. So it says the Rashba, this question was already asked in the Gemara, right? And right, so what's the answer there? There's a machloket here, right? So one rabbi here allows it, and then Rav Nachman comes and pushes it out and says it's okay. והריף לא פסק בה כלל. So then, right, says Bet Yosef, I'm sorry, not the Bet Yosef, the Rashba, says the Rashba, the Rif didn't paskin here, right? What's halacha? You know, there's a machloket, right? He didn't paskin. Omiu mistaba de share, right? So now comes the Rashba and says, but you know what? It's probably allowed. It's probably permitted. In other words, if you made that dish, right, for the sake of the next day, b'diavad, you can have it. You don't have to get rid of it, whatever. Right? First of all, the one reason it will be allowed is because Rav Nachman and Rav Ashe pushed out that stringent opinion, right? They argue with it. So you see, right, that's the way they hold. Or that's the way the Sfira Lan, that's the way we hold. Right. So also, right, another reason is because it's rabbinical, you know. So we go lenient in the rabbinical question, right? When there's a machloket, when there's a doubt. Because really from the Torah, this definitely would be allowed, right? To eat, no question. Right? So what is he telling you here? He's saying, right, that there is a claim, right? There's some kind of a claim in the Talmud that says, right, that you're allowed to have it from the Torah. Not really an issue. That's what you see of the Rambam also. The Rambam seems to be also lenient, right? Even though he didn't write this explicitly, the Rambam, right? That's the way the Baal Haitu paskins as well. Right? So says, right, the Rashba, I'm also leaning towards that, right? So in other words, he's going also with the lenient side here, the Rashba. There you go. Right? So ויותר נראה לי הלכה שאפילו היו לו מאכלים אחרים, הרי זה מותר. So he says here, right, even more of a novel idea here, right, which is that even if you have other foods available besides this one, you can still have it. It's not like a last resort, you know, only, or if you have nothing else to eat, okay, so you can eat it. No, you're allowed to eat it, lechatchila, you know, no problem, right? After the fact that you already cooked it, right? Even though they brought their question about this, they brought a rebuttal, right, against this from the Mishnah. It says there, "Hamaaser perotav b'Shabbat ve'okimna b'deitle pere acharine." Right. So over there, right, there's a similar question that is asked over there, and there it says, right, okay, well, if you have, you know, the answer that they answered is like this: if you have other fruits to eat, so, you know, don't eat this. It's questionable, you know, but if you don't have anything else to eat, so then, yeah, okay, you can have it, you know, you have nothing else, right? That's it. Right, and then, right, we also brought another objection, right, from you know, immersing your utensils on Shabbat. Here also, right, similar answer that they give there. Depends if you have other things or you don't have other things, other utensils. Is this the only thing you have, or you have also other stuff? Right? שלא עמדו הדברים במסקנה, שהרי חזרו והקשו עוד שם, מהמבשל בשבת בשוגג יאכל. So he says also another thing, you know, which is that it's not really so clear over there, the Gemara, that they paskin, like, you know, to be lenient. Why? Because then they also brought other questions, and they, you know, they continue to argue about this. Okay, interesting. Isur the Shabbat Shani. So they answered that question. In other words, that question was not accepted, right? Umistabrali tehashta deatina leachi kulhu inach nami isura the Shabbat ninhu uvehanhu hu deasre bemezid bedidhu aval biyom tov kelal lo לא, דמקרא הוא דמהדרי לפריקין הוא כדי שלא תחלוק בין שבת ליום טוב, אבל בסוף דלא קם לפירוק האחרינה, תסגי לכול הוא וכן נראה לי ישובן של דברים עד כאן שונו, right? So the Rashba, right, the Rashba here goes through a whole discussion about, the Talmudic, right, elements of this discussion, right, over there. And, goes through the whole discourse that they had there, and how they argued, went back and forth and so forth, right, and so forth and so on. So in the end, right, the Rashba concludes from this Talmudic discourse that it seems like it's, we go lenient here. So therefore, the rule is, right, that we're gonna say, right, that if a person by mistake or whatever, or even on purpose, right, he went ahead and he cooked on the first day for the sake of the second day, so b'diavad we say that the dish is allowed. By the way, we also said something similar the other day, which is that if a person, right, b'diavad lit a new fire on Yom Tov, right, without transferring it from one to another. So we said, right, that he can use that fire. We don't penalize him and say, well, since you did a sin, you lit the fire, so you can't use it. We don't say that. So we do allow you to use it. That's the thing, right? So this is a very similar concept here as well. Once you did it, b'diavad, we allow you to have the food. But lechatchila, as we said, right, you should not do this. That's clear. Okay, very good. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch. That was a long bit, Yosef. We couldn't even finish it yesterday, right? We had to do it today. We had to finish the whole thing. Okay, so right, that's the end of it. Baruch Hashem, we're done. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch and see, right, what's the bottom line here? Bottom line, we got to bring up the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so let's bring it up. Taf Kuf Gimel. Okay. Bring up the Shulchan Aruch. Okay. No, sorry. Wrong one. Give me a second, I'll pull it up. Yeah, this is the one. Right, so here's the Shulchan Aruch. Says asur le'afot or levashel or lishchot b'yom tov. Right. So as we said, b'letzorech machar, you're not allowed to bake or to cook or to slaughter on Yom Tov for the sake of the next day. Right. This we cannot do. Doesn't matter, by the way, what the next day is. It doesn't matter whether it's Yom Tov or it's Shabbat or it's just a regular weekday. It's all the same. Or it's Chol HaMoed also, same thing, right? So as we already said, right, that regarding, if tomorrow is Shabbat, so then we have a solution, right, which is to make an eruv tavshilin. So then you could do it if you made an eruv before Yom Tov. Otherwise, you got a problem. Okay, so let's see, right, what else it says here. אפילו הוא Shabbat or Yom Tov, right? Or ואפילו בשני ימים של Rosh Hashanah. So he says that also applies on the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, right? Even though, right, we say in the Talmud that the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah are considered to be like one day of holiness, one 48-hour period of holiness, But nevertheless, regarding this rule of right, we only said that to go lenient, but not to go stringent, right? I'm sorry, just the other. We said that to be stringent, but not to be lenient. So therefore, right, this is the leniency. So this way we don't allow that. So even it applies also in Rosh Hashanah as well. אבל ממלאה אישה כדירה בשר, ואף על פי שאינה צריכה אלא לחתיכה אחד. So, but as we said, right, yesterday we discussed this, that what is allowed to do is, you make one pot, right, and you're going to have the rest of it tomorrow, right? Just you're going to have a little bit today, right? The one piece, and the rest is going to be for tomorrow. That's okay. So how did we say that that's allowed, right? What's the reason it's allowed? Because it cooks better when you have a full pot. So therefore, they did allow that. The rabbis, they didn't agree on that case. So therefore, that's okay. Good. So then, right? He says the Rama here brings the Rama. Says the Rama. בכל שכן שיכול לשחוט אף על פי שאינו צריך אלא לכזית. Same thing also, it says when it comes to slaughter, right? That, you just want like one piece of meat, right? A little kazait. So you're allowed to slaughter the whole animal just because of one kazait. Can you imagine? And the rest of it, you're going to save for tomorrow, right? Whatever, right? That's okay. As long as you take something from there for today. That's the trick, right? Yeah. That reminds me, by the way, there's a story in the Talmud, in Masechet Shabbat. Not so related to this, but somewhat related. It's a funny story. I want to tell you the story, right? It says like this, that there was a certain rabbi, okay? And he would have like, Malava Malka, right? Which is the fourth meal on Shabbat, after Shabbat goes out, right? I hope you guys do that, by the way, right? You do Malava Malka? You should. Okay. So anyway, right? This rabbi wanted to like splurge, from Malava Malka. He always splurged. So how did he splurge? What did he do? Listen to this, right? He would like take one animal, and slaughter it. Even though he wanted only like one piece of meat, that he would slaughter the whole animal, just for that one piece of meat. He would do that every time on Motzi Shabbat and for Malav Malka. Every Shabbat he would do that. Can you imagine? He's splurging, right? So, so his son, right, the son of the rabbi, sees this, right? He does this all the time, And the rest of the animal, right? The heck with it, right? Who cares, right? Whatever, right? I'm sure they did something with that, but whatever, right? But anyway, just for can you imagine slaughtering a whole cow just because you want one piece of meat from Malav Malka? So anyway, right? The son tells him, he says, Abba, father, dad, right? Whatever, right? Don't knock yourself out. Why do you slaughter the whole animal? For one piece of meat. It's a total waste. You're wasting. You're wasting your your assets there. I mean, bal tashchit, right? That's what we call that in halakha. It's like you're destroying something, which is valuable. All that meat is going to waste, whatever, right? Whatever. So he tells him, like you don't need to do that. Just have some leftovers, I mean, whatever, like what's the purpose of that? You got plenty of leftovers in the fridge. So take something out and have it, from Malal Malka. What's the big deal, So what happens, right? So this rabbi, right, decides to listen to his son, right? He right accepts the argument of his son, right? The logic. So next Shabbat, what does he do, right? He just take something out of the fridge, right? And has the Malam Malka, like we all do, right? Whatever. So what happens, right? It says in the Talmud there, right? That night, right, came a lion, and ate his animal, right? That animal that he should have slaughtered from Malam Malka, came a lion and ate the whole thing. Okay. Okay. So right, what do we learn from there, by the way? What's the moral of the story there? Anybody understand what that means? So anyway, right, this rabbi, draws the conclusion, right, that he has to draw. He says, because I was cheap, I cheaped out, right? And I didn't slaughter the animal from La Malka, Hashem took it from me, came a lion and took it from me. So, why do I bring this over here, right? What's the connection? Because we said, right, same thing over here, that you're slaughtering the whole animal just because you want to have a kazait. So you may think that's a waste. Come on, you're wasting. But you're doing it for Seudot Mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to have this Seudot on Malal Malka, for Shabbat, for Yom Tov. These are all mitzvot. So therefore, don't cheap out. If you have a custom, to do something fancy, keep going with that. Don't get rid of it, because you'll be held accountable for that, right? That's what we learned from this story. Okay. What do you call it? I just posted right the other day. I'm sure you guys have seen it or whatever, maybe whatever. So it says there, right, that Shlomo Melech, right, in Proverbs, in Mishlei, it tells you, right, don't sleep too much, don't love sleep, right, and this kind of thing. And the same thing, by the way, applies to eating too much, right? The Rambam talks about that. That eating too much is a very bad for your soul. Overeating. So a person shouldn't overeat. It brings your neshama down, Not a good thing. So right, so the question is like this, like you have to ask this question, like, what does that mean? Eat too much? What does that mean? Sleep too much? Right? Don't what does that mean? So the answer is, that if you sleep more than you need, your body needs, or you eat more than your body needs, that's what it's talking about, right? Comes Shlomo Melech and tells you, don't do that, because that's not the spiritual way of doing things. Too much. You're taking too much from this world. So the question is, right? If you do it, you slept too much, right? Or you ate too much. What happens? Do you get punished for that? Right? So the truth is, that they say that you do. They punish you for that if you ate too much or you slept too much. So what does that mean? A person should only sleep and eat whatever he needs to. So in other words, there are some things in life where, it's not exactly a sin what you did. You know what I mean? But it's improper behavior, whatever. So therefore, sometimes a person really depends on the person's level spiritually also. You know what I mean? If a person is spiritually higher level, they punish him, for little things like this, sleeping a little too much or eating too much. But if he's not such a high level, he's Amaretz, regular guy, right? Regular Joe, so they don't punish him for that because anyway, he's not so particular about things, So they let him slide. You know what I mean? Okay, so that's the story, right? Okay, we got into some morality over here, some morals, some ethics over here. Okay, so getting back to our discussion. Goes further, right here, the Shulchan Aruch, v'davka kodem achila. So he said that only applies, if you cook, right, before you ate. Aval achar achila, but it says after he already ate, ena yechula levashel, cannot cook anymore, right? That's it. So what is he talking about here? This is like a continuation, a sequel of what we just said, right? First we said we allow you to make the whole pot, even though you only want one piece, right? That's okay. But that's only if you didn't eat yet, right? Your dinner, whatever it is, right? Your lunch, whatever, right? You didn't have it yet. Lunch we're talking about, right? Whatever. Okay, so you didn't have lunch. But if you did, You cannot do that anymore, right? To have like a pot of make a new pot of something, right? You cannot do that because you already ate. So you're not, you don't want to eat that stuff, right? You're not interested in that. You're full already. You're already satiated, so therefore we don't allow that. That's already like, you're being like, very, crafty, right? Too crafty there. Okay, so דהווה דהווה העורמה. מיהו אם עברה או בישלה מותר לאכולה. But as we said, right, that if he transgressed and he did cook, right, but diavad, so he's allowed to have that food, right? He doesn't have to throw in the garbage. You know what I mean? Oh, it was a sin, right? Okay, so yeah, okay, it was a sin, but you can still eat it though. The rabbis didn't go that far, with this whole issue. There is a rule like this, in Talmud, by the way, as a general rule, even though sometimes it doesn't apply always, but um, the general rule is right. Gzera, gzera, la gazinan. So what does that mean? We don't make one decree on top of another. The rabbis usually don't make like a double decree, or something like that. Usually they don't do that. So therefore, since this whole thing is already rabbinical, to go and say now, b'diavad also, we don't allow you to eat that. That will be another decree, like so there will be like a decree on top of a decree, which usually the rabbis don't do. They don't go that far. There are some cases, by the way, that they do, but in this case they did not. Usually they don't. They don't do that. As a general rule. Okay, good. So that's the story there. Good. Okay, we're done with that, right? So that was important to know. This halakha is very important. It's very practical. So let's go to bets. Okay. So we'll first go back to Bet Yosef, right? And we'll see what's going on there. Make sure we read everything. There's the thing we still have to read a little more. And so it seems like by mistake, this Bet Yosef came down. I may have to bring it up again. I think I got rid of it by mistake. So let me bring that up. This is the wrong one. This is the one. Okay. So we did Aleph. Yeah, this one we need to do. So it says here in the Torah, "Gabe milui chabit shel mayim katav Rav Magid." Right. So what about regarding right? This is probably not the Torah; it's Bet Yosef. Anyway, it says here right that what about filling up a barrel right on Yom Tov? Um, so we already mentioned this in passing, right? I think it was yesterday. What are we talking about? We're talking about that. Let's say right, you need some water. Uh, so, but you don't need the whole barrel. So the question is, are you allowed to fill it up, the whole thing, the whole barrel, even though you don't need it? Or is that considered to be like, extra exertion, which is forbidden, because you're doing it for tomorrow, basically. You don't need it today, right? So something like that, right? So let's see. It says, כתב רב מגיד בשם רשב"א, בלבד שייתן את הכל קודם שיניח החבית על גבי אש. Right, so he brings in the name of the Rashba, right, Rav Magid, that it's allowed to do that, to fill up the whole barrel, as long as he fills it up before he puts it on the fire. So I guess he's gonna, heat up that water, right? Whatever. So, he should fill it up beforehand. Why? Because otherwise, he doesn't really need it at all, since he already started the fire and he's got it on the fire, so he shouldn't do that. So he says, "Ve'atam lefi she'ena mayim yafim yoter ksheyesh arbe bekli." So look what he says, right? Because once you already put it on the fire, then it's not better. The water is not better if you fill it up. It doesn't have any better qualities. So therefore, you see from there, right? The Rashba holds you're not allowed to add extra water, which is not needed. But he says when you do it in one shot before you put it on the fire, that's okay. Why? Because it's like it's like one effort basically, right? So it's okay. The rabbis didn't decree that far. They didn't go that far. Okay, that's one piece. Now there's another piece over here. In the end, I think. Yeah. Okay. Here, this one, small piece. So it says here, "V'chen nachtom." So it says, right, יכול לחמם החבית מלאה מים, פי שאינו צריך אלא לקיטון אחד. Right, so he says regarding a baker, right? The baker, apparently needs water to heat up, right? Whatever whatever they do there. So he can heat up the whole barrel, he says, even though he doesn't, he only needs like one pitcher, right? One pitcher full is enough for him, but he can heat up the whole barrel. That's what it says here in the Bet Yosef. He brings this probably from the same source. No, this is from the Tur, yeah. So then he says, so that was all explained at the beginning of the chapter regarding that issue, right? Okay, interesting. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch. Let's see how he explains this. If we need to, we'll come back to this Bet Yosef if we need more clarity over here. All right, so says Shulchan Aruch like this: ממלא נחתום חבית של מים, אף פי שאינו צריך אלא לקיטון אחד. Right, as we said, the baker, right? We're talking here about a baker apparently because he needs water, for his business, whatever, for his operation, right? So he's allowed to fill up the whole barrel, even though he only needs one pitcher. So as we said, right, what's the reason for that? Because, it's only like one effort. That's what we said in the name of Rashi, right? In the Bet Yosef, he brought that down. it's like one big effort, it's not really more than that. So therefore, it's no big deal. There's not really too much extra exertion there. So let's see Mishnah Brura. Let's see what he says here. Just interesting to see what he brings down here. So right, exactly what I told you, right? It's one exertion. That's what he says. כתבו האחרונים, דהיינו דווקא היחידי ממלא פעם אחת מהדלי, ולא פעמיים, right, רבות על ידי כלים, right? So Mishnah Berurah here brings a good point, right? He brings that only applies when he fills it up like in one shot. In other words, let's say, right, he takes a hose, right, and just puts it inside the barrel, and it just keeps on going, right, the water. So it's like it's one effort, basically. But he says, Mishnah Berurah, if you have to do it like several times, in other words, let's say you have some kind of a utensil, right, that you're filling up the barrel with that utensil. So you got to keep on like, filling it up and pouring it in several times, right? 10 times, whatever it is, right? So there, Mishnah Berurah says it's not allowed because, that's extra effort already. That far we can't go. Am I being clear what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, good. So there's one more Mishnah Berurah here. Let me just see what he says here. וגם בזה צריך להיזהר שלא יאמר פירוש שהוא רוצה למותה. Right, so first we got to read the Ramah before we see the Mishnah Berurah here. Let's do the Ramah. So it says the Ramah here, אבל צריך להשים הכל אצל האש בפעם אחת. Right, so he says, but what you got to do is, as we said, right, you got to fill it up before you put it on the fire. אבל אסור להוסיף אם כבר חבית אצל האש. But he says once it's already on the fire, right, you can't add more. So says the Ramah, what's the reason why you can't add more once it's on the fire? The tircha shelo letzorech, because that's already like extra effort, Why is it extra effort, by the way? Because now you have to bring, right, more water where the fire is, and fill it up there. So that's not one effort. It's like, several efforts going on here. This is the reason why, two or more, right? Whatever, right? So therefore, says the Ramah, we already saw this in Bit Yosef, by the way. So, right, he brings here this halacha that, once you put it on the fire, you can't put more. And, even though the Shulchan Aruch doesn't say this, but we already said in the Bit Yosef, right, that the same thing applies if you're heating up water, right, and you have it in like one pot, whatever, one barrel, right, whatever. We don't use barrels, we use pots, right? So you have like, let's say, lots of water in your pot. So you can heat up the whole thing, even though you don't need the whole thing. Why is that? Because it's one effort, just like, you're not doing something like, several times. You're just putting on the fire, right? Then it'll heat up eventually. Eventually it'll heat up, right? So you're not doing extra effort, really, So that's why it's allowed. The same thing, as we just mentioned here, right? Same concept. So when it isn't extra effort, extra work, whatever, right? Extra exertion, so the rabbis will allow you to do that, to heat up a little bit extra, to make a little bit extra. Especially, right, when, it comes out better like that, right? The outcome is better. That's even more. So, right, that's the story there. Okay, very good. So, that's the story. So we're done with this chapter. I guess we'll stop here, and we'll next time, B'ezrat Hashem, next week, we'll start the next chapter. So, okay, Baruch Hashem. So, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna like, do the practical parts, and whatever is not really practical at all, like, totally not relevant, I'm just gonna skip over them because, it'll just be, I guess, we're gonna get bored doing things which are not really relevant. So, that's what I'm gonna do. So, B'ezrat Hashem, it'll make life easier, it'll make it more interesting also. When it's more practical, it's more interesting, that's the thing, right? So I think that's the best way to go. Okay, very good. So B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see you next week, Sunday. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness, B'ezrat Hashem. And have a great Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. Chazak Baruch, Laila Tov. I want to tell you guys before you go, right? I do have some kind of like procedure scheduled on Monday, because when I had my eye surgery last year, they put oil in there, and I have to remove the oil now. So I'm going to be going, for like a procedure on Monday. So I'm not sure what's going to be on Monday. So I'll let I'll let you guys know. If I can make it on Monday. The problem is I don't even know what time the procedure is going to be. They haven't told me yet. So I'm still like, on call. I'm on the waiting list, right? Whatever. So I'm not really sure what's going on yet. I'll let you know when it comes up.
We will daven for you, Rabbi.
Thank you. God bless. Thank you so much. God bless. God bless you. God bless. God bless you. God bless you. All the best. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
God
Shabbat
bless.
shalom.
Umbach. Umbach. All right.